woman, hidden deep among the trees, waits for her target to appear. In the distance, a plane lands at an airport. When it stops, its doors open and a couple gets off. At that moment, the woman aims at the man and fires. Levi is a former United States Marine and private contractor who has been retired for 4 years, although he still works from time to time when they call him. One morning, he receives a message asking him to report to the Marine base. Upon arriving, he meets a woman named Bartholomew, who reviews Levi's record. He is an expert sniper with 113 confirmed kills and 81 possible kills. However, the real numbers are much higher. His skill is extraordinary. He does not use drugs and refuses to take any kind of medicine because they could affect his aim. He also does not have a girlfriend or anyone who would suffer from his loss.
However, everything is about to change when he is offered a new job. In Lithuania, the woman from the beginning, named Drasa, arrives at a cemetery where she meets with her father and leaves a flower on her mother's grave. Drasa is an excellent shooter and has been assigned a new mission. She will be undercover for at least a year, perhaps more. This is not good, since her father suffers from cancer, which is destroying him from the inside. Even so, he informs his daughter that on February 14th, Valentine's Day, he will end everything. Drasa tries to change his mind, but it is a decision he has already made. In September, Levi is inside an airplane. A soldier approaches him and warns him that in 3 minutes they will arrive at a restricted area, so they will not be able to continue any farther. After landing, he must walk 38 kilometers north, where they will be waiting for him the following morning.
After putting on the parachute gear, Levi jumps and lands in a completely unknown place. He walks for several hours until he reaches the meeting point. There, he meets Jasper D. Drake, known as JD. He has been in that place for a year, and just like Levi, he does not know exactly where they are. In addition, Levi is the first person he has spoken to during all that time. The reason is that Levi is there to replace him. JD takes him to the West Watchtower, which will be his home for the next 365 days. The tower is self-sufficient. It has solar panels, an emergency generator, a system to collect rainwater, and many animals to hunt. In the distance, the East Tower can be seen, with which any contact is forbidden. In addition, there are mines and dangerous barriers surrounding the abyss to the north and south.
JD confirms to him that the East Tower does not represent a problem. As long as he fulfills his duty, they will do the same. In theory, the job is simple. Every day, Levi will have to watch the coast, where there are turrets every 600 meters or so. He will have to reload the bullets, check the barriers, the camouflage, and the hanging mines. In the outer bunker, there is a storage room with weapons, tools, ammunition, and mines. Every 30 days, he will have to send a report by radio. The camouflage is made up of satellite transmitters spread along the coast, each with its own power supply and a backup generator. Their function is to send false signals to the satellites passing through the area, preventing them from discovering the zone. There is no communication with the outside world. No cell phone, no satellite communication, nothing. In case of emergency, there is an alarm button at the monthly report station that will notify the superiors. If the camouflage fails or the abyss is attacked, the automatic system will activate the Mad Dog protocol, which will trigger the alarms, and the only thing Levi will be able to do is run very fast. But that's not all. The real mission is not only to keep the place hidden, but to prevent whatever is inside the abyss from getting out. JD activates a bomb, throws it into the abyss, and after the explosion, a terrifying scream comes from the depths, confirming that this is not a normal mission. JD explains that they call them the Hollow Men. No one knows exactly what they are or why they are given that name. One of his predecessors called them that a long time ago, and the name remained. At the end of the 1940s, they sent 2,400 men on horseback into the abyss to wipe out everything there, but none of them returned. After that, a control strategy was created. JD believes that the abyss is the entrance to hell, and they are guarding the gate. The following morning, JD says goodbye to Levi, and upon arriving at the departure zone, a helicopter quickly appears. Relieved to be leaving that place, he says his full name and the password, only to be shot in the head. His body is thrown into the void as if it were worthless. Shortly after, Bartholomew receives a call informing him that the replacement has been completed. By the month of October, Levi has grown accustomed to his new routine. He checks the system, inspects the mines, and sends a monthly report. One day,
While checking the tower, he discovers that behind a shelf, his predecessors had left messages written on the wall.
Another day, while gathering his crops, he hears a sound coming from the other side of the abyss. He climbs the tower and, with the help of binoculars, spots the Watcher in the other tower, who turns out to be Drasa. Spending too much time alone ends up being worse than anyone could imagine. So much so that one night, Drasa decides to break the rules. She writes a message on a sheet of paper and fires into the air to get Levi's attention. He responds the same way, reminding her that they are not allowed to communicate. However, it is Drasa's birthday, and she decides to do whatever she wants. So Levi decides to make a toast, while Drasa blasts music at full volume. Then they test their aim to distract themselves. Everything seems to be going well, until Drasa notices something. She stops the music and signals Levi to check it out. He sees nothing at first glance, but when using his weapon's scope, he observes the empty men for the first time, deformed humans with roots growing all over their bodies. He immediately fires and causes an explosion. It turns out that several of them are trying to climb the abyss, so Drasa is forced to help him. This prevents him from noticing that on his side, there are also several empty men climbing up until one gets close enough, forcing him to pull out his pistol and fire. But that was only the beginning. One of them falls onto a mine, causing a second explosion that inflicts a chest wound on Drasa. In addition, a second wave of empty men begins to climb up. There are so many that the mini-turrets activate and begin a series of shots to stop them. Drasa does what she can, but the wound in her chest is severe and she ends up passing out. At dawn, he regains consciousness and heals his wounds. Later, Levi checks the mines while she protects him. However, something strange happens. From the abyss emerges a kind of drone that stops for a few seconds in front of him before flying away. On Christmas, Levi decides to put up a tree and wish Drasa a Merry Christmas. From that moment on, both of them begin spending more time together, making snowmen and playing chess. In an unusual way, they form a very close relationship with each other, finding support and companionship in the middle of the loneliness and danger surrounding them. When February 14 arrives, Drasa cries over her father's death. Levi watches her from afar and asks her what is wrong. She only admits that it has been a difficult day and that she wishes she could be with him. He remembers a phrase written on the wall by those who were there before, which says that only those who dare to go far discover how far they can go. That is how he decides to fulfill Drasa's wishes. From among his weapons, he takes a missile and modifies it, replacing the explosive with a rope. Then he launches it, and on the other side, Drasa ties the rope to a tree. After shaving and picking some flowers, Levi puts on a harness and begins to cross the abyss. Upon reaching the other side, he comes face to face with Drasa for the first time. Later, the two enjoy a pleasant outdoor meal while talking about where they might be. Levi is convinced that they must be somewhere in the northern hemisphere because of the seasons. Taking advantage of the situation, he confesses that he has a better view from there, sitting down with Drasa in front of him. However, besides trying to win her over, Levi has also wondered what the reality behind the Hollow Men is. As night falls, Drasa puts on some music and seductively convinces Levi to dance with her. The moment ends with both of them kissing and lying together. Later, while they watch the stars, Levi reveals that he writes poems, and that, in fact, he has written one about Drasa called She Brought Down the Night. Upon hearing that, Drasa is fascinated. The next morning, they say goodbye with a kiss. Everything is going wonderfully, but nothing lasts forever. While Levi is crossing the abyss, an explosion occurs. One of the fragments cuts the rope, and Levi falls directly and inevitably into the abyss. Seeing this, Drasa quickly runs to put on the equipment and, without thinking, throws herself in search of Levi. Below, everything is covered by a yellow mist. Drasa has the bad luck of falling into a river. Levi has become trapped between the branches of a tree. He seems to be unharmed, but not for long. A creature resembling a giant centipede is about to attack him when Levi regains consciousness and shoots it. He falls onto a red and sticky substance among the roots of a tree. The substance begins to surround him, and Levi tries to escape, but he cannot, until Drasa arrives and shoots, managing to free him. Both decide to head toward the wall to look for the cable that will get them out of there. However,
the centipede and the substance are not the only things down there. Suddenly, hollow men riding horses appear and attack them.
Levi and Drasa manage to defeat them, but one manages to escape. The worst part is that they lost the elevator, and without it, they will have to climb 500 meters upward. Their only alternative is to follow the river south in search of the exit from the abyss. However, there is something strange. The hollow men wear military uniforms, all from the 1940s. Unable to find answers, they move forward until the fog changes from a yellow color to violet. There, they end up surrounded by motionless hollow men attached to tree branches. Farther ahead, they find an abandoned village with an opening in the ground. Upon hearing a noise, both enter a kind of church where they discover human skeletons. Next to one of them, there is cyanide, which indicates that they made the decision to end their lives. At that moment, spiders descend from the ceiling and hollow men arrive from outside. With the help of their weapons, Levi and Drasa manage to escape the church and reach the wall of the abyss. There, they find a door they enter through. Everything is dark, but with the help of their flashlights, they manage to reach a kind of abandoned laboratory. There, they discover an emergency generator that luckily still works. Later, they find a tape and place it into a player. The recording was made on July 12th or 13th, 1946. A woman explains that their community was created as part of a secret alliance between Eastern and Western countries. At the end of World War II, while Robert Oppenheimer was developing the atomic bomb in Los Alamos, they were working on biological missiles just as dangerous. 6 days before the recording, an 8.1 magnitude earthquake struck their location, severely damaging the structure of the facilities. This changed their mission from research to one of control. They worked non-stop to prevent the substance from spreading. Contact with the chemical compound merged the DNA of the living organisms inside the abyss. Human DNA combined with plants, animals, and even insects. Some people were more resistant to the contamination, especially if the exposure lasted hours instead of days. However, within 5 days, the mutations began to show physically. Their strategic decision to choose such a remote place was the only reason that could save the rest of humanity. Among the group, they also find a computer belonging to Dark Lake, a company dedicated to genetic research. They discover that its drones have been collecting hybrid DNA samples to create super soldiers. At that moment, they understand that they are not working for the military, as they thought, but for Dark Lake. After watching the recording, Levi and Drasa understand that they must find a way out soon to avoid prolonged exposure to the toxin. Unfortunately, Drasa discovers that her backpack, where she kept all the ammunition, is no longer where she left it. She finds it outside the laboratory and quietly approaches to retrieve it. But the moment Drasa grabs it, she is dragged away by the empty man riding a horse. Drasa fights back and tries to break free, but her head hits a tree and she loses consciousness. When she wakes up, her hands are tied, and in front of her, she sees the empty man. Even so, she is not willing to give up. With all her strength, she kicks him and manages to free herself from the ceiling where she was hanging. The two begin to fight, but the creature is stronger. Drasa avoids his attacks and uses fire to burn the roots covering him until Levi appears and shoots him. At that moment, they discover that this hollow man is actually the first soldier of the West Tower, the same one who gave the hollow men their name. Levi also discovers that they are inside a missile silo. Some time ago, the earthquake damaged the missiles, causing them to start leaking and making the contaminating substance now present in the fog. In their attempt to get out, the two pass by a huge, sticky creature, motionless but alive, being careful not to touch it so they do not wake it up. However, Drasa accidentally steps on one of its legs, causing the creature to attack them. Luckily, they manage to escape and eventually throw an explosive, causing the creature to burn in the flames. Then they arrive at a garage where they find several jeeps. These still work and have strong winches that could serve as an elevator. Drasa drives at full speed toward the east, searching for the cable, and they finally find it. Quickly, they tie him to the jeep and begin climbing. Shortly after, they come out of the fog, but suddenly they stop ascending. The hollow men have started climbing up the rope. Levi and Drasa fight against them, but there are too many, so Levi uses fuel to set them on fire. That is how they manage to get rid of them and reach the top. At the tower, they treat their wounds and decide to remain in quarantine for 5 days to make sure they are not infected. Levi returns to his tower, where the next morning he communicates to give his monthly report.
The drones have alerted Bartholomew about the activity in the abyss, so they ask Levi if he went down there. He denies it, and thinking that the one who did it was his counterpart in the other tower, they order him to eliminate her. Levi lies by accepting the order. Communication between them continues until one day they hear a helicopter approaching. They immediately realize that something is wrong, so they each escape on their own. It turns out that Bartholomew did not believe them, and to solve the problem, he arrived to finish them off. They deploy drones that do not take long to find them and start shooting. Even so, Levi destroys them, just like Drasa does. Both manage to reach a high area from where they prepare their rifles and aim at the towers where Bartholomew is. At that moment, she finds a note written on the wall by Levi that says, "There are 3 things that cannot be hidden for long: the sun, the moon, and the truth." At that moment, Levi and Drasa shoot at the satellites, destroying the camouflage and leaving the abyss exposed. Drasa manages to get to safety, while Bartholomew and his team move away in a helicopter, although they end up being caught by the explosion. Levi, injured, gets as far away as he can, but it is not enough, and the explosion sends him falling down a waterfall. Sometime later, Drasa is in France. She has held on to the hope that Levi survived, but too much time has passed. So she decides to open the letter he left her in case he did not make it. Inside, she finds the poem he had written for her. It is April, and Drasa is working as a waitress in a restaurant, when, to her surprise, she sees Levi sitting at a table. The two approach each other, exchange a few words, and finally kiss.
More videos created for you on screen. If you like this channel, subscribe and turn on notifications.